We're not there yet. Yeah, you can make a face. No, be yourself. There you go. There you go. You made it just in time, too. That was perfect. That went out. The internet saw you do that. We are officially live on my end. Is it up for you?
Almost. That means it'll be maybe 10 more. Boom, there it is.
You got a minute. There you are. Welcome.
Actually, that might have been faster than normal.
There you go. Hey, it's because, I just had the right touch with the button. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Status Coup.
It was my face. It was my face.
That did it?
Yeah.
That did, yeah.
All right. Serious time.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Status Coup. We're back. We've been off for a little bit because there's been a lot of on-the-ground coverage, important on-the-ground coverage. But that means that we have had to miss you, which has been a bummer. So we're very happy to be back.
Yes, happy to be back.
Yeah, I'm Ron Placone.
And I'm tina-Desiree Berg. And today is, what is today? Thursday, 5/11. It's May 11th already.
It's May 11th already. Oh, my God. This year went so... Time
fast.
Needs to slow down. It did not get my memo, but we have an exciting show for you today. First of all, Colin is not on the ones and twos today. I'm on the ones and twos. But we have an action-packed show for you. We are going to be talking about a climate action while simultaneously Joe Biden was courting a bunch of Wall Street people like he does. We're going to be talking about the WGA strike, which of course I've been talking about a lot. Tina's been on the ground covering that. So we're going to go through some footage there. We're going to be talking about the Railway Safety Act of 2023 and also having a broader conversation. Are we starting to see a little bit of positive movement towards deregulation? And we're going to have another example from March dealing with the airline industry. Also in the digital rights space, Twitter encryption. Turns out it's not so great, even if you're paying Elon Musk. Right? And that's fresh off the hills off the Earn It Act getting reintroduced. I'll be breaking that down for you. And we also have a guest having to do with
Kalamazoo.
The Kalamazoo packaging plant that Status Coup helped break that story big time. And we're going to be talking to one of the main activists involved there, Brandy Crawford. That's going to be around 2:45/5:45. I think I got it. Did I get it? Did I miss anything?
You got it all, except that you forgot to call. We have footage of Antifa Jane.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's your nickname. That's your nickname for her.
Forget Hanoi Jane. It's now Antifa Jane.
Should we? Oh, and before, let's do this. First of all,
some people will understand that. Others are like, what is she talking about? I'm dating myself.
Smash the like button, y'all. And please, if you would be so kind, give us a super chat. We'll get to all your super chats at the end, and you help keep this show on the air. And also, let's do this. We're also amidst a membership drive. We'll mention this first.
Yeah.
So, boom. It's Membership May. See what we did there? And we are trying to reach 100 new members. We are currently at 52. Please, if you are able, go to statuscoup.com/join. When you join Status Coup, you get all kinds of cool perks, membership calls, all kinds of neat content, and you are helping fund on-the-ground journalism. Breaking stories about toxins in the air in Kalamazoo, East Palestine, Flint. This is what happens here at Status Coup. But journalism takes funding. It takes resources. And that's what your membership goes to. It allows us to break stories and then package them here in the studio and on the ground. It's important work, and we need your help to continue to do it. So yeah, let's go. You want to start with? Let's start with
Antifa
with
Jane.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of set her up on the tee. Bear with me, folks. I'm doing Colin's thing, so I'm not able to be as quick as he is. But I got a clip for you. So let's start checking this out. This was from a recent climate action.
Yeah, John Farina went and filmed this. So this was a climate protest that was happening at a Biden fundraiser. We'll get into the details of that in a second. But Jane Fonda came out and gave what was a fantastic speech, I think. And I think it's important to realize that she's 85 years old. Where are all the 20-year-olds that she's out there doing? I know. It's impressive, right?
Very much
Just
so.
saying.
All right. Let's watch it.
We're here to send a message to President Biden, who's here at a fundraiser with billionaire fat cats, that we need Biden to stand up to the fossil fuel industry and move the nation off fossil fuels. We are in a climate crisis, and we need Biden to have the courage to stop fossil fuels, to stop fossil fuel infrastructure, to stop fracking around with our future, and really take the climate crisis seriously because our future is on the line.
Confront the climate crisis and save this planet. We have to phase out of fossil fuels. I want to thank you for raising your voice against fossil fuels. I also want to thank you for your courage, your willingness to leave your comfort zone, put your bodies on the line, and engage in nonviolent civil disobedience. This is the time for civil disobedience, right? We've been polite, we've marched, we've protested, we've written, we've made speeches. We have to up the ante now. We have little time left. The opportunity to save the planet and our future, the window on that is closing rapidly, and we have to do something about it, and we have to be very brave. You know, I'm sure that we've all seen documentaries where people like Martin Luther King and others all over the world have been brave and stood up to the batons and the dogs and the water and the police, and they do it anyway. And have you ever seen a documentary like that and asked yourself, would I be brave enough? Will I be able to stand up for that? This is our documentary moment, and you all are being very brave, and we all need to follow your example. Thank you so much.
So, first of all, Jane Fonda, man, she just doesn't stop. She has been on the forefront of activism her entire career, come what may. You know, she was treated, I think, very unfairly in the 70s when she spoke out against the war. It turned out a lot of the things that she said turned out to be completely, absolutely on par with reality. But at the time, you know, she was quite tarred and feathered, but she's stuck to her guns, and she's still been able to maintain a fantastic acting career the entire time. So hats off to Jane Fonda for coming out. Susan Sarandon, too. Someone's saying that in the chat. I agree. Susan, too. So
was that the same action where Susan got arrested?
Was she just arrested? I missed that.
She was arrested. Yeah, Susan Sarandon got arrested. Yeah.
Yeah, Susan is, I think Susan and Jane are out there on the forefront continually. You know, and they get a lot of heat for it. Look how Susan Sarandon was treated on Twitter for some of the stances she took with Bernie Sanders. Completely unfair, but, you know, anyway, I respect that. I want to address a little bit of why they were there. So this was a Biden fundraiser. It was at the home of a former Blackstone executive who is very integral to the company. He was there, just retired in 2021, sorry. Had been there for 20 years or so. So still very much part of the company. The tickets were $25,000 a pop, so really expensive. Obviously, the majority of participants or those that bought the tickets are going to be Wall Street individuals. So for folks that don't know who Blackstone is, I think we should talk about that a little bit. They are a private equity firm. They mainly dabble at this point in real estate. They've spent a lot of money on buying up what is single family units now, not just apartment buildings. So they've been a big player in apartment buildings for a long time. And then they just started after the banking crisis and there were all the foreclosures that were out there. They started buying those up. So they own a lot of single family houses that they rent out now. I've mentioned this before on the show, and I think it bears mentioning again. Part of why that was allowed to happen is when they were taking care of auctioning off these foreclosures, instead of doing one single family unit house at a time, they were putting them up in blocks, which automatically, narrows the pool of buyers, who can buy these properties. A mom and pop that are just looking for a home for their family obviously aren't going to go in there and bid on 10 homes at once. Only a hedge fund's going to do that. So part and parcel to how we got here. But now they own a large chunk of our rental units, not just apartments, but also single family homes. So Joe Biden out there trying to raise money from these guys, given a lot of the campaign promises he's made, I think is, highly suspect.
It's just classic villain behavior. I mean, it really is. And here, straight from this CNBC article, Wall Street executives played a key role for Biden during his 2020 victory over Trump. They spent over $74 million in support of his candidacy. Mm-hmm. And look, they spend plenty of money on the Republicans too. I mean, the thing with Wall Street is they bet on both teams. They're
happy with whoever will do whatever they want. Yeah,
so they can't lose. They can't lose. And
they buy everybody.
They
buy
buy
any. Yeah.
everybody. They buy, and here you have a climate protest because who's the leading culprit when it comes to climate change and destroying the planet? Frickin' Wall Street.
Yeah.
Wall Street.
Let's talk about one of the things they're protesting is the Willow Project. This is happening by ConocoPhillips is doing this in Alaska. So they're, Biden signed this a couple months ago into passing, where they're now going to be drilling on the side of the north slope of Alaska, of the Alaskan mountain range, in the petroleum reserve. So this was something that he promised was not going to happen.
Yeah, he promised he wasn't going to do that. He promised he wasn't. I mean, he did say he's not going to ban fracking, but he promised he was not going to expand it a ton. And he kept the I'm not going to ban fracking promise. He certainly kept that promise. He has not banned fracking. But, as far as the no expansion promise,
no, it's definitely expanding. So,
and here's.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I just wanted to show the quote. So go ahead,
yeah, the quote, Washington Post. Yeah, this is a good quote.
So these are some words of wisdom from our commander-in-chief Joe Biden on all this. Here's what he had to say: America is the strongest economy in the world, but we should be cutting spending and lowering the deficit without a needless crisis. He's worried about that, which, by the way, is just a straight up falsity. It's just learn MMT. It's just a bunch of false neoliberal nonsense. And even if it wasn't, which it is,
if he wants to cut subsidies to fossil fuel industries, if that's what he means by spending, of course we know that's not what he means. We know that's not what he means. Or if he wants to cut some of the budget for the military-industrial complex. But no, whenever these guys say cut spending, they're talking about, quote unquote entitlement programs, which really aren't entitlement. So things
How effed up is it that's even a term that exists? Like we say
entitled
that
to what? Your money back that you invested into Social Security. It's not like we all didn't pay into it. I mean, it's just nonsense.
It's
just
disgusting.
One more way in which our politicians have decided that they're going to make all of the economic woes, all the economic problems that the country faces, they're going to burden the working class with it, or the workers, as opposed to the corporations, when really the reverse should be happening. I think what we're seeing with inflation right now is a prime example of that. We know that the inflation that we're seeing isn't because of an increase in wages. That's just a falsity. We know it's because it's profiteering, right? These are corporations, gouging, taking advantage, wanting higher profits. And so, and knowing that they can get away with it. Part of that also relates back to the fact that we have not enforced antitrust laws for many decades now. We're going to talk about that in a minute as well. But, obviously, instead of coming out and saying, you know what, corporations are profiteering right now. The reason we're seeing inflation is because of that. It's not because of workers' wages, which have been suppressed for 40 years. It's because of this. Why don't we force the corporations to bear the burden of the inflation at this point, since they're the ones creating it? Mm-hmm. But why is it so difficult? What needs to happen for Congress to connect these things and to, change course? I don't know.
Well, I don't think Congress doesn't not see the connection. I think they just don't care.
Right?
Again, and this goes back to Wall Street. Who funds them? Wall Street funds them. If they make Wall Street mad, they lose their frickin' money, and they know it. They know it. And that's the way the game continues to be played. And here you see, an event that really just kind of highlights all of this, because you see
it really does.
It really is like just the frickin' villains. Well, they're protesting for a livable planet, like a frickin' livable planet. Well, Joe Biden is in there having a frickin' dinner with a bunch of Wall Street executives.
Wall Street billionaires. Yeah. You can't continue to try to serve both of these camps effectively at the same time. They're at odds. They will always be at odds. And I think that's the major sin of the Democratic Party. It continues to be the major sin of the Democratic Party, is they think that they can appease both of these camps, right? Workers and corporate donors. It's not the case. It's just not. I mean, it's an untenable situation that just keeps getting worse as we go. And this is why so few voters vote at this point. I think I think it's fair to say the biggest pool of voters are the non-voters, and the Democratic Party should be going after winning those guys over. The fact that Biden barely beat Trump in the last election should scare the shit out of all of us. I mean,
well, And I'll say this too. I mean, we still have a long time for 2024, but I don't know about you. I've
It's coming
never
fast.
seen it is coming fast, but so far, and again, I know it's still early, but I have never seen less enthusiasm for a
Right.
presidential election in my lifetime.
I haven't either. And
And
I'm
I've seen
52.
a lot of shitty candidates.
seen a lot of
I've seen a
shit.
ton of shitty candidates. And we're gonna see shitty ones in 24. And but I've never seen less enthusiasm for a presidential election
Which is
ever
just
in my life
awful.
because
And
people
if
are
you
just
don't have
gutted.
enthusiasm, so they've increasingly have to rely on their base, right, to just come out and vote Democrat no matter what. And that portion of the population is dwindling, right? It's down to like 26%, perhaps, I
Yeah,
believe.
people are done. I mean,
You
people are
can't
fed up.
win if the other side's all fired up. You can't win an election that way. It doesn't even matter how horrifyingly, insanely, like hair on fire, evil fascist the other guy is. At some point, you know what I'm saying? It's like, this worries me.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I think, yeah, it's going to be ridiculous because it's either going to be Biden or it's going to be, like they're just going to try to install somebody if Biden at the last minute decides he's not going to run, and that's just going to be it. But
yeah, it's just really hard when you've got a sitting. So running a primary when the party's sitting president is the sitting president is just not something you see very often. You know what I'm saying? It's
no,
sort of
I
baked
get
into
it,
party
but
politics. That I'm not saying that should be the case. I'm just saying that's sort of how everybody sees it.
But this is all about coddling him. They don't want to have any debates because they want to coddle him. They don't want
I
to,
don't
and
disagree. They
and
coddled him in the last election. Let's be honest.
they've coddled him for 40 years. I mean, this is a guy who, I mean, it's amazing in a bad way that he is even president right now. This guy, I mean, I think my friend Lauren Ashcraft said this to me first, although others have said it too, where it's like he is like the penultimate example of failing up. Like the man
in
has
many
just
ways.
failed up his. I mean, he was a plagiarist. He was just a DC insider. No one's ever liked him except for all the Wall Street fat cats he was good at kissing up to. And you can find his early speeches where he brags about it. He's like, "I'm ready to prostitute myself to money." He literally said that. He's been on the wrong side of pretty much everything for 40 freaking years.
Friends with some of the biggest
himself.
racists in Congress. I mean,
yeah,
I don't disagree.
Humiliated himself for years whenever he would try to run for president. And
not to rehash the last primary, but honestly, he out of all of them, he was, in my opinion, the worst. Like I would have taken Amy Klobuchar before him. I mean, yeah.
But they shoved him down everyone's throat. And then what happened? He was in a situation where the guy on the other side shot himself in the foot so
With
many
COVID
freaking
stuff.
times.
Yeah, I agree.
That, I mean, a freaking ham sandwich would have won that election.
100% a ham sandwich. I often say that, actually. The ham sandwich would have, I mean, it's really tragic that we had a president that was so terrible. Like, Trump was so bad. I'm sorry, but he's horrifyingly bad.
And he beat himself. Even he beat himself. Like, it's unreal. I mean, I was like, there's no way. I mean, and I thought Biden was going to lose. I was like, there's no way Biden
I
wins
was worried. I have to be frank with you. I was
himself.
worried. I was like, at the hair of my, like, oh my God, is Trump going to re-win this thing? Are we just going to continue on this march towards fascism? But that we might have just, honestly, we might have just slowed. Yeah, I was just saying, we just slowed it down.
I have some bad news for you.
We just slowed it down. I don't disagree.
We are stuck in an authoritarian ping pong game because neoliberalism leads to neo-fascism and vice versa. Right. And we're the ball getting batted around. Here's the problem. No one actually wants to win the volley between the neoliberal and the neo-fascist. So we're just getting batted around. That's the way I see it. But let's have a little bit of uplifting things before we go to let's go to your WGA footage.
Okay.
I awkwardly was trying to load it up here.
Awkwardly.
So we need to frickin' play it. All right, check this out, y'all. I'll play it and then I'll expand it so we can watch the full thing.
Why is it playing so slow?
Reset it. And I like.
Thank you, Jay.
Jay Leno.
Yeah. He came by with some donuts. Tell me why you're
I'm
striking.
here today because I want better conditions as a writer for myself and for future writers and for everybody.
I'm here because I've been working in features consistently for 5 years and I've lost my health insurance twice.
Uh-oh, is this an internet thing? What's happening?
It might just be slowing up on me a little bit. Sorry about that, y'all.
Well, the video is kind of
Here we
not.
go.
It's like dropping frames a little bit. Oh, there we go.
Disney shop.
I'm here today striking because honestly, staff writers deserve to be paid for their episodes.
They're in heaven right now.
He's 7. She's 2.
That's awesome. Brilliant.
They are
Well,
very cute.
cool.
Yeah, is that the internet that's causing that? That's.
I think it's probably because I just have a
StreamYard?
lot going on right now because I'm managing the
Oh.
stream and I'm
Got
on
you.
the stream, so I
You
think
need
it
more
could just be
CPU or RAM or something.
yeah. I think it could just be slowing up on my end. It's probably not the video, but I think we got the gist of it.
We got the gist of it.
So the WGA strike is still going on. I've been talking about it a lot because it's really freaking sad that it came down to this. And, I mean, I know I've talked about it on Status Coup before. I talk about it on my show, Get Your News On with Ron, a lot. I know you've talked about it too, Tina. What the writers were asking for was so incredibly reasonable.
Yeah, I
And the
agree.
studios just basically told them to F off. They pretty much declined there wasn't even counter offers. It was just nope.
Wait, oh no.
Nope.
One of the hang on, Ron. They did have this ridiculous counter offer about getting, wait for it, free unpaid interns.
No, that was the thing. I didn't even hear that one. What was that in regards to?
I'm not sure what it was response to, but when I
Okay.
heard that, I was like, "Are you kidding me right now?"
I'm not even familiar with that bullet point, but I know that
There's so many back and forth on this.
There's a lot of back and forths, but so many of them, like the most obvious glaring ones was just like, give us a proper contract length,
Yeah,
like
for
the
staff
the
writers,
the
yeah.
appropriate length to complete a contract. That was just straight up denied. Give us properly staffed writers' rooms. That was denied. And now here's the thing. Of all times, like, why would you deny that? Because guess what? Here's another factor. Writers' rooms, there is so little overhead now because guess what? You can do them over Zoom. You don't have to get real estate in Hollywood anymore. How much freaking money is that saving? And a lot of writers, myself being among them, prefer that anyway. We'd rather like just be over Zoom than have to deal with the freaking traffic, especially since the days of like getting expensive lunches and stuff. Those days are over.
Yeah.
So there was no reason for them to kind of F with the writers, but they did it anyway. And it's just, it's obnoxious greed. They are making record profits. So they're telling their shareholders, hey, great news, record profits. And then they're telling the writers, oh, I'm sorry, we just can't up your wages. And another thing, I know I've been saying this a lot, but I'll reiterate it here. Just so y'all know, 99% of the creatives in quote unquote Hollywood, they're working class people.
Oh, 100%.
They're
they are.
not
wealthy.
rich. They're not,
Yeah.
they're not the Jay Lenos. They're not, like the people at the very top. They're making an average living just like anybody else. So, and
No, that
those
is
are the
absolutely
people
right.
that are out there.
That's absolutely right. I think what they were asking for is fair. I would also like to add that we've been coming to this point for, a few years now. I think you could harken back to the last, last decade when SAG was trying to negotiate better contracts, or they weren't, depending on which side of the inter-SAG argument you were on. But I think the membership first people were making the point that we've been giving away this new media stuff for a long time. That is the future. And if we don't start fighting for better contracts on this now, we're not going to be able to get them later. And I think they were correct on that. We see that now really clearly, right? The new media contract for a long time basically was 2 sentences that said you get to negotiate whatever your pay is. I mean,
well, that was the big
union.
Yeah.
What do you need a
WGA.
union for? Okay, so I have to pay union dues, a couple $100 of union dues a year, so you guys can basically say to me, negotiate your own pay, and you're lucky to get minimum wage. I mean, that is absolutely batshit insane, but that is sort of what was happening. Like every other industry, right? You have the wealthy elites and you have the working class people, and a lot of the wealthy elites that are creatives didn't want to stand by the sides of those that were just making scale or whatever. So, no group is monolithic. There's obviously layers and layers to this onion. So, but I do think what has become painfully clear is that the studios, whether that's, Paramount or Warner Brothers or any of the Paramount, the larger ones, or it's Netflix, which are some of the newcomers, they're all banding together on this. They've seen their profits increase because they can suppress wages because of what they're calling new media still and sort of treating it that way.
Yeah.
And that's that. I mean, old media, what does that even mean at this point in 2020?
Right. And just for anyone who's not clear with what that refers to, new media, quote unquote, was what they initially labeled stuff like Netflix, but they labeled it as such back when most people didn't even know what Netflix was. Right. So you had SAG-AFTRA and the WGA too, that were trying to figure out, okay, what do we ask for when it comes to new media? Because of course the studios use that as an excuse to pay less. And
they did so successfully, right? They pitted after before the merger, they were pitting these two unions against each other over these things as well, I would say.
Well, and people were divided on it, and I don't know if it was necessarily malicious. I think some people just honestly didn't know.
Of it was.
I'm sure some of it was. I'm sure some of it was. I mean, this was, personally, this was way before my time, so I'm not, I'm just privy. Well, I'm just privy to what other people told me that were there for that in 2008 and from the WGA side. And it was like some people were saying, no, this is the future. We need to make sure we're treated fairly here. Other people were like, what the hell is this stuff? I have no idea what. I think for some people, it might have just been they didn't have the foresight, I think
they didn't have the foresight.
They were wrong. We know that much. They were wrong. Whatever their intentions were.
But most of them won't admit it now. They won't admit it now, even though that's obvious.
I'd imagine. But there were definitely some people that just got it wrong. Yeah. Just like there were people that thought the internet was going to be a fad.
Right.
It's like they got it wrong. And we're still...
Definitely not a fad.
Definitely not a fad. It's here, y'all. But there has been some really cool working class solidarity. Film TV shoots at LA hotels may be disrupted if hospitality workers back writers' strike. So here we have an example of hospitality workers backing the writers' strike. The Teamsters have not crossed a picket line.
No, nor will they. I want to bring up something about the hospitality union. This is Unite Here, Local 11. These guys are important because they work at a lot of locations where TV shows are shot, right? So Marmont, a couple of other places. So if they decide not to come to work, this will affect production that's happening at any of these locations as well. So I think it's 100 area hotels in total that they are employed by.
Do you think SAG-AFTRA is going to jump in? Do you think SAG-AFTRA is going to strike?
Yeah. Strike or support the WGA?
Well, they're already supporting, but do you think they're going to straight up? Because
I would vote yes on that, but I don't know that. I mean, SAG-AFTRA is a very messed up union at this point. It's very weak post-merger. I'm sorry, some people are going to get mad at me for saying it, but I am going to say it. When they merged together with AFTRA would let anybody join. You could walk in off the street, pay dues, and join AFTRA. So by virtue of that, you had a lot of people that came in and did that because they wanted a SAG card. At that time, a SAG card actually did mean something, right? So merger happens. All those people are now part of SAG. Many years later, none of them can make a living as actors, clearly. When they joined, they had no credits. So it was just something they did. And now they're all, not paying dues, or they're filing what we call financial core, which means they are technically not part of the union anymore. So it's really weakened the union in many respects. That's my opinion, and I do have a very strong opinion in this area. I don't really talk about it very often.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're in it. I mean,
I've been part of SAG since 1990. God, I'm going to make myself really old. In 1991, I think I joined, maybe even earlier, 1990 something, a long time ago. Ed Asner was president of the guild at that time. And then another thing that's happened on broadcast side is a lot of the broadcast journalists are also financial core. They were financial core at AFTRA because that was never a big area of organization for them. Everybody's just negotiating. Again, if you're not scale, you're, Rachel Maddow, or you're, the guy I shall not name. What's his name? The guy at Fox.
Well, I don't know. You said you're not naming him.
I'm not naming him. Anyway, point
guy at Fox doesn't narrow it down. Most of the people at Fox are guys.
Point being that they're wealthy, well-paid broadcasters that can
still not narrowing it down.
Giant contracts. I mean,
rich white guy at Fox. Well, it could only be like 2 people. You don't say. Well, look,
you get my point.
No, I got
not to bore everybody with this whole thing, but I do.
No. I got you. I just think, despite the flaws of SAG-AFTRA, putting all that aside, I do think they're going to jump in here. That's my honest prediction.
Really?
And
I'd be surprised.
Well, in some ways, I wish it didn't have to come down to that. I wish the studios would stop being jerks and just give the writers a fair deal, and we could all go back to work.
I agree. But listen, you couldn't get a strike authorization vote from SAG members like 10 years ago when it mattered more, and it was their paychecks on the line.
I think they might wildcat.
Really? All right, we'll see what happens.
This is weird. Am I being the optimistic one?
You are.
Ed, Colin, get rid of this in post. This is not on brand for me. I'm not okay with this. Let's
okay.
You ready to go to the railroad?
Yeah, I do want to talk about the railroad. This is, I think, a bright spot right now. It's really ridiculous that it took, day after day of derailments, right? How many derailments have we had since East Palestine? How many? Like a bunch. Like it's just never ending amounts. And we had the railway strike before that. We had the workers warning that this would happen. You have, extremely long trains that are double the size they used to be, which is dangerous. One worker on there, not instead of a team, also dangerous. Perpetual work hours where you have very few days off. You're always on call. We've gone through all of these things in past streams. So you know what those things are. But finally, at long last, Sherrod Brown, and I want to point out that J.D. Vance is also part of this. I know some people are going to roll their eyes. Here's the thing. They're senators for Ohio. This is ground zero right now for where train safety is going to be because of what happened in East Palestine. So it makes perfect sense that they would both be on board sponsoring bipartisan legislation to fix this. So
and this is the Railway Safety Act of 2023.
Yeah, it has now been passed through the Commerce voted through. So that's a yes. So it will continue its way through. So that was a milestone, I think. So my question is this, Ron, and I think you're going to say no to this, but my question is this: is the era of deregulation ending?
No, but there are glimmers of hope, and this is one of them. Look, here's my overall take on this bill. This is a bill that is a step in a better direction. This is a bill that has support from the Teamsters. I have not read this bill in its entirety myself, but to the best of my knowledge, there are no poison pills, which is a good thing. This bill calls for more protections when it comes to transporting hazardous chemicals, more oversight when it comes to the transportation of them, more involvement of the EPA. These are all good things.
Requirement of more than one person on the train. So they have to now have 2 or more, which I think is important too.
So these are steps in a better direction. Abso-freaking-lutely. And I want to see this bill pass because of that. Is this bill just the final finish line and we've solved the problem completely? Well, absolutely not. We still have a long way to go, and we still need to really get to the core problem of these companies are getting away with exploiting workers. I know there's a couple things going in a better direction, and I do want to see this policy move forward, but we really do need a true status quo shifting change in the way these industries are allowed to operate. So, but
I
hey,
agree.
you got to start somewhere.
You got to
and
start
this
somewhere.
is a good start.
It's a good start. I just sense that I don't necessarily think it's because it's coming from a good heart, right? I don't think politicians have all of a sudden decided, well, our gravy train's over with the corporations, because clearly it's not. Or, well, I care more about the people in this country, my constituency, than I do my donors. Like, I'm not suggesting that that's happening. I am suggesting that perhaps the tide has turned in the sense that the payouts, or what's the word I'm looking for? What is beneficial to them the most isn't necessarily to carry on with more deregulation, because at some point it's gotten. I think we're in that point now. It's gotten so bad where they know that they're not going to be able to hold on to their offices if they can continue doing the same things over and over again. I also think, follow me on this, I also think January 6th still remains a turning point for a lot of these folks, as far as the Department of Justice, as far as inner workings of government agencies, because I don't know that they saw that coming. I mean, those of us out on the street covering politics were not surprised by it, but I don't think a lot of these government agencies and those in like positions of power were clear on how much unrest was out there, how much rage was out there. And I think most of this is stemming from income inequality. Unless that's addressed, I believe this, unless income inequality is addressed, we're going to keep inching closer to fascism. But I think we're getting to that point, is what I'm suggesting. So the other thing I wanted to talk about today is the Department of Justice going back and starting to enforce antitrust law, which I think is really important, part and parcel to changing income inequality in the country. When you allow these multinational corporations to become larger and larger and larger, and there's no competition, and they get to make every decision out there in their industry, it's very bad for workers, right? There's nowhere else you're going to go to get jobs, right? You have to stay there. And it's also bad for consumers. They know that they have the upper hand and can basically charge whatever they want for something, which is where we're seeing some of this profiteering or corporate-driven inflation coming from, in my opinion. So
I really want to share your optimism.
I know. I just,
Well, here, look. I mean, here's the thing. As much as, and you brought a good example with the airlines here of them
and we're gonna
preventing
talk about,
a merger.
Yeah, let's look at that.
Sure. And so we can start there. But so check this out, y'all. This is from Reuters, and this is from March. But they basically prevented JetBlue and Spirit from merging. They just prevented this merger. They said,
well,
no.
Not entirely. It's going to court, so they are suing to prevent the merger. Yeah, so we haven't. All right, I'm just saying we're not out of the woods yet, but at least they're doing that. In the past, they were just allowing these companies to merge together, and to be like, it was why we have 6 large media conglomerates that pretty much own all of the media, which is also very bad for the public. So I think if we can get the DOJ to actually go after antitrust laws again, this would be very beneficial for the country. It would be beneficial for consumers, for workers. And I think maybe that's what we're starting to see. That's all I'm saying. Maybe the neoliberal, deregulate, privatize, maybe that era has run its course, is what I'm suggesting, possibly.
I sincerely hope you're right. And when you see stuff like this, okay, there's a little bit of a glimmer of hope. However, there's just the very inconvenient truth of a couple things. First of all, we had huge bills in the digital rights space when it came to antitrust in OMA and ACOA. You guys heard me talk about that ad nauseum. Chances are everybody watching the stream is thinking to themselves, yes, Ron, we signed the petition for you, because I talked about that nonstop. And we lost that one. I took it hard, y'all. I took it really hard. We lost that. And it was because of Chuck Schumer and his conflicts of interest with big tech, along with other corporate Democrats and Republicans.
But that's not
we had some unlikely allies, too.
Not the Department of Justice, though. So I'm just pointing out, maybe it takes somebody outside of elected officials.
But when you're talking antitrust, I mean, it's like there's still some accountability there. They still could have had some bully pulpit.
Oh, I agree. I don't disagree.
So,
I don't disagree.
And also the other big thing is, and we've been talking about this on Status Coup. Pretty much nobody else talks about this. Is the merger with Kroger that's happening.
Right.
The potential merger with Kroger if that happens, that is going to homogenize our grocery chain in a way we've never seen before. And y'all, we already have an absolutely disgusting food culture. Our food culture is illegal in most other countries, and it's about to potentially get even freaking worse. So, that's a huge thing that nobody talks about. And that would really gut this country. That would lead to more food deserts, because they're going to pretty much have a monopoly. So if they don't like the profit margins, they're just not going to go to a place. They don't care if people starve. So that could lead to more food deserts. That could lead to, it's going to make our food chain and our food supply even more gross than it already is. I think we're a year or two away from them selling freaking, God, who knows? But point is, when you see stuff like that, it's kind of hard to have the hope that we're
and I'm glad you brought up Kroger. I'm glad you brought up Kroger, because they are actually, there is a lawsuit against this merger too as well, but there's some movement on that. So Kroger company filed a motion in federal court April 12th. So this was recently, seeking to dismiss a federal lawsuit filed in February aimed at halting the supermarket giant's planned acquisition of Albertsons company. And here's what you need to know. Let me scroll down. What? Where's the rest of the article? I do need to know, and you're not telling me.
They're keeping it from you. They don't want you to know. No. They're fighting it. It's
requiring a subscription for this one. But I wanted to get some update on that. No, the ink isn't dry. But again, here's the Department of Justice. What I'm saying is maybe they're waking up a little bit from their slumber, and they're like, okay, these many bridges are bridges too far. We need to start enforcing antitrust again. Let's see what we can do in that arena. Because they haven't been doing this the past couple of decades.
Yes.
So
it has, in fact, been a couple decades.
So I'm just saying, at least that's changing.
They're thinking about the stuff we haven't done for 40 years. So thinking maybe
that was a bad idea, and we should have been doing that all along.
Years.
I know.
No, I sincerely hope you're right. And if they do, I think it's also more along the lines of, it has gotten to such an absurd point that we are living in a dystopian novel that was meant as a warning when it was published in 1940 or something, and we're freaking living in it. And I think it's more a reflection of that, where it's like gotten to the point where like, we can't let you do this much. We can't. It would just be too on the freaking nose.
It is too on the nose. And what happens after the next level of January 6th for these guys, right? I also think that they sort of realize that there are more people in the country than there are of them. And if they awaken the sleeping giant, do you want to end up with, the level of protesting that you have in France or worse? More insurrection. So point being is that maybe that was enough to sort of like galvanize them into like being awake and saying, maybe we should have been doing this all along. They can't possibly be blind to the fact that the income inequality is worse now than it was in the 20s. They can't be.
So breaking news.
Breaking
news.
No.
We got a breaking thing here, and I'm pulling it up on my phone, and we're gonna bring our guest
also
here.
Our guest is here. Yay. Okay.
So the Marine who choked homeless man Jordan Neely to death is going to face charges.
Good. As it should be. He murdered him. Jesus.
This is breaking, y'all. This just dropped, but I'll read this to you. This is from the New York Post. And this was sent to me by some guy, that Jordan Cheritone guy who occasionally shows up in the chat. But he does other stuff around here, I guess. Daniel Penny, the former Marine who put homeless man Jordan Neely in a deadly chokehold on the subway last week, is expected to surrender to face criminal charges, law enforcement said, with knowledge of the case Thursday. Penny, 24, will turn himself in at the NYPD's 5th Precinct in Manhattan on Friday morning. So as of the recording of this, tomorrow, high-ranking police sources said he is being charged in criminal complaint, with second-degree manslaughter. Wow. The Manhattan District Attorney's Office has been investigating the May 1st encounter that left Neely, a 30-year-old homeless man with a long history of mental illness, this is according to the article, unconscious on the floor of an F train. So that's from the New York Post. That is breaking news that literally just dropped a few moments ago. So we do have that for you, and we'll keep an eye on that story. We'll probably have more to say about it tomorrow, but it looks like tomorrow morning he is going to turn himself in.
Good. Great.
Yeah. So breaking news, folks. We're going to go over to Kalamazoo now.
Yes. Very important stuff happening.
So again, this is to give everyone a quick brief. Jordan, Cheriton, and Colin went down to Kalamazoo, where a multi-billion-dollar packaging company
Right.
has been emitting 30-plus toxic gases from their paper mill. It's called Graphic Packaging. This is in a dominantly black neighborhood in Kalamazoo. They've been doing this for years. When Colin and Jordan went there, they both got headaches and sore throats, and Jordan's eyes were sore for weeks. Residents there have high rates of asthma. In 2015, 1,950 black babies under the age of 1 died in the county.
Jesus. That's crazy.
This story finally broke with a huge help from Status Coup here at Status Coup. So again, if you are able to, please become a member, because this is what your membership helps make happen. So they released the data showing all these hazardous things that the mill was doing. But they didn't shut the plant down. They just told residents to stay inside whenever it smells particularly bad, which many people are saying is every day. Because look, even if you're not like any paper mill, I mean, this one's particularly hazardous.
Are toxic,
Any paper mill, A, they're toxic, and B, they smell.
Yeah.
Like, they don't smell good. I mean, if you're near any paper mill, even if they, follow procedures better than this one, it doesn't smell good. It does not smell good. So, whenever it smells particularly bad, just stay inside. That's every day. So we're going to bring in our guest for a couple updates here. She is a former Kalamazoo resident and the chief activist fighting against Graphic Packaging, which of course is the paper mill who's the culprit here.
Right.
And she is the plaintiff in the lawsuits against the state of Michigan. Yeah. So please welcome back to the show, Brandy Crawford. Brandy, how are you?
Fine. How are you?
We're good.
Glad you could join us today for some updates. I wanted to ask you, hydrogen sulfide concentrations in the factory are 4 parts per billion, which is really high. And I know that they've been fined, 9 times now or something, or at least addressed 9 times?
I think it's 14 at this point.
14? Holy shit.
Yeah, because they had a spill in the river, so they got another violation for that, and they got another violation in December. After I called, I told them to go on every street. I'm really... It's not just Graphic Packaging. It's the city of Kalamazoo. It's Environmental Great Lakes and Energy, which is the state environmental protection agency, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, who's downplaying the health risks and not giving any health recommendations, even though I've worked with Michigan Department of Health and Human Services on this report for 3 years, almost 3 years. I hired my own toxicologist to look at 2 gas studies. I FOIA'd. This is how the whole thing, everyone always knew there was an odor, but we didn't know where it was coming from. We didn't know it was the wastewater plant is right next door to Graphic Packaging. And then there's a cemetery, and then there's the river where there was PCB spills over the years. So no one knew what the odor was or where it was coming from. And then I got sick of everyone just I called the wastewater plant. My eyes were burning, another house I had bought in the neighborhood. And so I said, this is crazy. My asthma's getting worse. My eyes are burning. I started going door to door. Everybody else had antibiotic drops for their eyes. The mailman had burning eyes, even though he didn't live there. And I just got suspicious. So I did a FOIA request with the city of Kalamazoo. And I just looked, I asked for, anything that had to do with Graphic Packaging and the city of Kalamazoo, any studies or any chemicals, gases, just because I was suspicious. And I found these 2 reports that said they had gas studies done in 2009 and 2020 that showed multiple malfunctions in equipment at both plants, and that they were monitoring for hydrogen sulfide since 2019, but they never even told any of the residents. They never warned us. They never told, there was never any public announcement through the news, anything sent in the mail. And then I figured out.
I'm surprised they sent those to you and didn't try to bury it. They probably didn't realize it was going to be a smoking gun.
I think that they didn't realize. Yeah, they didn't. They underestimated my intelligence or the drive I had to fight this war. I feel like I'm fighting one of the biggest corporations in America. Graphic Packaging
huge
clients are Procter and Gamble, Coca-Cola, Coors. I mean, they have more clients like Chick-fil-A now. They've got Jimmy John's. I mean, I think there's every corporation's pretty much connected to this one because they're the biggest packaging plant in the world.
Those are all terrible companies too.
By the way,
right?
Yeah.
Just you just listed a cast of villains, all the.
They don't care.
That's
Broadly
insane.
speaking, why do you think they're able to get away with this at the level that they are?
I believe that the politicians are getting kickbacks.
Probably.
Because I mean, it's just the whole thing is it's so weird. Like it took so long. I mean, even the DOJ is investigating. The FBI public corruption is investigating.
Wow,
I mean,
that's
like
good.
this is something that they think that they can get away with. And I feel like, everyone's freaking out about this Michigan Department of Health and Human Services consultation that was released on Monday. And it's because there was no health recommendations. And I told them we need to bring in medical vans. We need to bring in medical insurance for people that don't have insurance to even get treatment for asthma, bring in some inhalers. But also I've been pushing with the EPA and at the White House Environmental Justice Council meetings that we need to do relocation. And then this doctor another doctor I worked with, Dr. Ansel, he's in charge of the Rush University Research Center in Chicago. He wrote a book called The Death Gap. I found out we had a 14-year death gap in my neighborhood.
Wow,
so
that's huge.
It's huge. And so I told him, I said, can you help me? He didn't even charge me anything. He's helped me. And he just came out in the news yesterday saying that health consultation is ridiculous. What you need to be worried about is reducing these gas emissions and relocating in people until you do so. Like temporary relocation or whatever. But the neighborhood is a Superfund site already. And the EPA, under EPA law, if you have human beings living in a Superfund site, they have the funding for relocation. They've done it in Love Canal and other places in the past. So I think every EJ community that's on a fence line of hazardous facilities, they've never tested the soil and the water or their air in these communities because they know that it's part of the Superfund site. They already know it's toxic. They already know it's toxic. So instead of just notifying everybody of the toxic exposure, their risk, they just hope that everyone is not educated enough to learn about it or, fight against it because they don't know. And that's the thing. We aren't taught this stuff growing up. I had to study every day and work with doctors and figure out that there's a severe health risk. The state health department's known since 2020, since I had the toxicology report done. It said severe health risk to the EJ community. I mean, we're a valley, so all our pollution is trapped as well.
It's trapped.
And it also said that there is a severe health risk to the employees working at the wastewater plant and graphic packaging. So it's not just the community members.
No,
Since that expansion went through, now it's spread to the white areas of the city. Now, when they go walk their dogs, like I have friends that live in all the neighborhoods, they walk their dogs or they get headaches, nausea, burning eyes, burning nose, burning lungs, and it's just crazy that they would say that their only recommendation is to stay in your house. People can't stay in their house every day. They have to go to work. They have to go to school. Their kids want to play outside. They want to have barbecues. They want to have graduation parties. Like I hear all these horrible stories where their grandkids don't want to come to their house because they get sick or they can't have a graduation party. They're embarrassed. People leave early because it smells so bad, or they start getting symptoms. And even Jordan and Colin, when they came down, they got burning eyes and headaches and everything.
Yeah. And also staying in the house isn't going to prevent the toxins from infiltrating your lungs
because
or your
indoor
body,
air pollution is worse.
Yeah.
So
that's not a solution.
You're the health department.
Yeah. Well, because it's almost like they're trying to say it's just that it smells bad, not that it's also very toxic and can, take
That's why they focus on calling it an odor. That's what
I noticed that.
I'm like, you're acting like this is an odor in a trash can. This is toxic gas.
Yeah, I noticed that.
And all the violations, the majority of the violations at graphic
are for odor.
Were for odor, and they never got any fines. So I've been pushing it, and I filed a civil rights complaint against Eagle for issuing the permit for graphic packaging to even increase the poisons when they've already had so many. There's been 400 air complaints over 10 years or something like that from residents, people that work at the hospital, people work at the businesses, and you want to increase the pollution? It's insane. So I filed a civil rights complaint. Good. And they're supposed to, I'm in informal resolution with them about it, but I'm still not even wondering, I'm still wondering if they will even put any real measures to protect people, because if the state health department's not going to do it, how can I trust the
Michigan,
EPA?
Yeah. I mean, look at Flint situation. Let me ask you this. I feel like environmental racism is a big factor in this.
Oh, for sure.
obviously they always put, not always, but a lot of the time they put these plants into either traditionally black neighborhoods or poor neighborhoods, because I don't know if they think that they'll get less resistance if they do that, or whether they just straight up think these lives aren't worth the same as rich people's, or what it is. But there's a thing that's been going on in this country for decades.
Yeah, they did it so long ago, and then no one understands that the local government, they're in charge of rezoning these neighborhoods. So the reason why the stuff continues to happen, or permits are continued to issue, or pollution's increasing like that, is because the local governments aren't rezoning. So the original zoning maps for this neighborhood say hazardous and Negroes right on them.
Oh my God, are you kidding me?
It's 1937 zoning map, original zoning map. Yeah. But the federal government outlawed is racism and zoning, redlining, and so the local governments just never listen to the federal government. So they're supposed to be, HUD is supposed to be investigating the city of Kalamazoo for the environmental racism and continuing the zoning as well. But I just still haven't seen any action, because I filed the complaint 3 years ago.
3 years ago.
So everything, the civil rights complaint against Eagle, I did 2 years ago. And then the lawsuit against Graphic Packaging I filed almost 3 years ago. So
has there been any movement with that?
No, Graphic Packaging tried to file a motion to dismiss, saying that so we're still waiting on the judge's decision on that, but they tried to file a motion to dismiss, saying that the statute of limitations, but every time they get a violation, the statute of limitations starts over
I was just going to say that starts over again.
Yeah. But the craziest thing to me was that they were like,
wow,
we've been polluting them for 100 years, so we should be allowed to continue to do so. And I think that was crazy. That would even say that in it.
That is messed up on so many levels. It's unbelievable. The Governor Whitmer, where is her position on this?
She has not said a word, but the reason why I feel like she hasn't said a word is because she is implicated in this for the fact that our ex-mayor, who is in cahoots with our current mayor, they are best friends, live next door to each other. Wow. And our current mayor, David Anderson, and Bobby Hopel are best friends. Bobby stepped down, encouraged everyone to vote for David Anderson, which he only got 6,000 votes out of 77,000 people. No one votes, really. And
no one votes.
When
there it is.
Bobby left, when Bobby left, he the Governor Whitmer, she appointed Bobby, our ex-mayor of Kalamazoo, to the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. And the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, right after he got appointed by the governor, gave Graphic Packaging $125 million in tax incentives to expand and increase the poisons.
Of course they did, because that's what economic development is, gentrification on crack. That is just awful. I just can't.
That's why I feel I don't know if it's just Michigan or if it's everywhere, but I feel like the state environmental protection and health agencies are supposed to be taking over for the EPA. They take the EPA monitors, the air monitors, all that kind of stuff. They take over regulations because the EPA is underfunded, understaffed, and so they need the state's help. But the states, at least in Michigan, are more concerned about economic development than they are of protecting health and the environment. So why are you even there?
Yeah, I hear that. Let me ask you this. Regulatory capture has been a thing at the federal level. I'm wondering if that's occurring at the state level, meaning that the people that are being assigned to these positions, right, they're supposed to be monitoring the industry. They're supposed to, stop them from doing bad things, so to speak. A lot of those positions have been filled with people that come from the industry, right? So it's like a revolving door between the industry and government, where the corporation just completely gets what they want because of it. Is that happening, do you think, at the state level there?
Yeah.
Well, that's why they're never going to have any teeth.
I mean, it's all corruption. Everybody's involved. They're all corrupt. It's just corruption. That's really what it is. It's and I feel like everyone's getting kickbacks. I'm sure there's PACs that Graphic Packaging's involved in that donates to Governor Whitmer's campaign and all the other politicians.
Yeah.
Because I've contacted Governor Whitmer's office, the Attorney General Dana Nessel's office. I've contacted all of the politicians in our region, and they've all ignored me. They've all ignored the other residents, and it's insane. I've never seen anything like this. At least I felt I don't think the response for Flint was good either, but at least there was a response. But there's no response from the politicians or the governor to ours. And it's different. I'm not saying that that any crisis is worse than the other, but I feel like it for water crisis, you can get bottled water, but you can't do that with air.
Yeah, you have to move people. That's it. Maybe their concern is that they know that's going to cost them more money and they don't want to pay for it. I mean,
but they have enough money. Why don't you take the 125
They do have
million?
enough. I was going to say that they do, but they have this calculus that they do, and they're so greedy. Like this is late stage capitalism, like on speed right now. I mean, people just like. It's just like crazy. Every day there's like a new example of this.
And people don't understand. They all trust, like a lot of people, they're either too busy, like, you know, raising their families and working at their jobs and everything, that they just trust that the government, like governmental agencies, are protecting environmental health. And it's just not the case.
They're not. That's
just not the case.
So the non-voters, wow, that is like much lower than, I mean, generally speaking, and I say this all the time, the biggest chunk of voters in the country are the non-voters. That's absolutely the case. But it's even lower in Kalamazoo, it sounds like. I don't blame these people, because they feel like they can vote for candidate A or B and they get the same crap handed to them. It doesn't really matter. So they've sort of tuned out of it. But, you know, part of that too is that primary elections have really gone by the wayside in the country. Either there are good candidates that are entering primary elections and they're not making it past the primary election because they don't have money to fund a campaign, or there's these races where literally nobody is challenging the incumbent at all, and this corrupt incumbent is just there, doesn't get challenged, and gets reelected by virtue of that. I'm not sure how much of an effect that has on situations like what's happening. But do you think it plays a role in that? Maybe there's something needs to be done about that.
Yeah, for sure. But like I see where people's, I mean, knowing that the governor didn't help us, but being a Democrat myself, or I would say I'm more of a liberal than anything, but like if I'm having a choice between voting Democrat and Republican, I'm voting Democrat.
Right.
And just knowing that I had to vote for her, knowing that she hasn't helped us, like I didn't even want to, but I didn't. Yeah, I just thought the other choice, Tudor Dixon, wasn't better than her. So it's kind of like you're picking the lesser. You think you're picking the lesser of two evils,
right?
But to me, it's like I'm shocked. But also, she also appointed. This is another thing I feel like is the reason why this public health crisis is so bad, is because she appointed Aaron Keatley as director of Environmental Great Lakes and Energy, the state health and protection agency environmental. But she also appointed his wife, Andrea Keatley, as the tox health unit manager of the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. So to me, I feel like they delayed the report and they watered down the report, and they would have the ability to do so. Because they can't testify against each other in court if they're married. And the wife is not going to want to implicate her husband for not regulating graphic.
Right. That should have never been allowed to remain. That's bad. I agree. That is, even if there wasn't anything funky going on there, the optics are terrible.
Where can people go?
Like I really believe that that's one of the reasons.
Yeah.
Where can people go? Where can people go to learn more? Or is there anywhere you'd like to direct people?
I guess they could just Google, they can Google graphic packaging Kalamazoo and then read everything that there is about it. But there's also like this Eagle page that has on Eagle's website that talks about graphic packaging, all their violations, all the updates, the health studies, everything that's
do you post on Twitter or any of the other social media, any updates? Or do you guys
I post on my Facebook.
Okay.
I've done it, but it's been taken down. I even put up, like the other day, I put up another picture of my bill, tried to do a post on my page for the billboard that I bought. And it says, clean up sacrifice zones. People are not disposable. And Facebook took it down and told me it was hate speech.
Wait, what?
Wow.
What?
Yes. And I've done that for I've also gotten posts taken down because I've said it's genocide. Like that's really what it is.
You're not wrong. Meanwhile, I can report
racism.
I can report a literal swastika post, and they send me an email saying we don't see a problem here. Like what? Like
right? It's insane.
Well, thank you for joining us today, and we'll definitely
Yeah,
continue to cover
I
this story
definitely
here.
want to keep covering this, and I want to dig into this a little more. It sounds like there's a whole treasure
Because
trove
people
of
are
information.
terrified. Like they're having panic attacks because they know they cannot stay in their houses like all day. And
And here's
indoor
the other
air
thing, nor
pollution
can
is
you
just as
afford
bad
to
as
move.
outdoor air pollution.
Right. And these people, I see these
Or
people, they're like,
they
well, should
definitely
they
can
just
afford to
move?
move.
No, people can't afford to just pick up and move. Who do you sell your house to? Somebody that
No.
already knows is toxic?
That's
No.
why I push for relocation.
Doesn't work that way. You're
I
correct.
have to keep pushing. If I keep pushing for relocation, but I really honestly feel like we're about to file some more lawsuits, and we already have this lawsuit. And I sent Jordan some recordings that I had, and with some of these governmental officials and everything, and like this lawsuit. So I feel like the only justice we might get is through the lawsuits, because we can't trust the government. I mean,
some more investigative journalism here, uncovering more corruption. Really,
definitely. Like we definitely
more
need
FOIA.
this. I mean, we've had a lot of definitely, but they charge a reporter $60,000 at Eagle just to FOIA.
Yeah, no, FOIA can get expensive. There's no two ways about that. It can, but it can also turn up, a trove of stuff.
I pretty much have everything myself.
Oh wow!
Like I've
okay,
saved everything.
Awesome.
So yeah, I think I save the journalists a lot of money when it comes to that, because I save all the emails.
Right. Awesome.
Well, thank you for what you do, and thanks for giving us some updates today. And we will definitely stay on this and be in touch here on Status Coup. So thank you very much, Brandy.
Thanks, Brandy.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Have a good one. That was Brandy Crawford, the lead activist on this issue that is pretty much being ignored everywhere except for here.
Yeah, I have a feeling that's about to change, though, because all of a sudden I've seen, since Jordan's come back, I've seen other people picking up on the story, which is good.
I hope so. I mean, it's just criminal what's going on, and they're just poisoning people and
they're doing it across the country. It's like for every one that we uncover of the situation, there's like 100 more that we don't even know about. It's just insane that this calculus. Anyway.
So, folks, a couple quick things here before we go to your super chats, which, by the way, it's not too late. Leave us a super chat. We will get to it in one moment. So right now, the Earn It Act has made it out of committee. What is the Earn It Act, you might ask yourself? So it's a terrible piece of legislation that was introduced in 2020 and 2022. It was shelved both times. Why was it shelved? Because there's something in the Earn It Act that basically allows the scanning of all online messages, and it basically butchers encryption. Well, it made it out of committee again, and the new one is just as bad as all the old ones. Here's a fun little story that goes alongside it. So over at Fight for the Future, who I collaborate with, we've been calling for the encryption of all messages across social media. Elon Musk said he liked the idea, but he effed it up. Check this out. Twitter's encrypted DMs are deeply inferior to Signal and WhatsApp. So on Twitter, you have to pay for it. You only get the encryption.
$8, people. Actually, it's more than $8 now. Do you know that?
Oh, is it?
It's more than $8. Yeah. When I lost
$8, but that's great.
I know when I lost my verified thing. So there's a column that they had verified. I think everybody has that now, and it's just like the blue check trolls, whatever. But when we were de-verified, they put this like thing there instead that was like a sales pitch to get the blue check back, right? You can have your blue check back. And I did the calculus on the math. It's like for only whatever it was a year, it was like $11 a month. And I'm like, wait, that's $11 a month. What's happening?
So the encryption feature is opt-in, for instance, not turned on by default, a decision for which Facebook Messenger has received criticism. It explicitly doesn't prevent man-in-the-middle attacks that would allow Twitter to invisibly spoof users' identity and intercept messages, long considered the most serious flaw in Apple's iMessage encryption. It doesn't have the perfect forward secrecy feature that makes spying on users harder, even after a device is temporarily compromised. It doesn't allow for group messaging or even sending photos or videos. And perhaps most seriously, it currently restricts this subpar encrypted messaging system to only the verified users messaging each other, most of whom pay $8 a month, or as Tina pointed out, more, vastly limited the network that might use it. So that's coupled on with this. And here's a call to action for you folks. Go to noearnitact.org. That's noearnitact.org. And stop the Earn It Act. Again, that call to action is noearnitact.org. And I'll let you guys know that I will be on the road. Come check me out. I will be in, oh, look, I can do my thing. There's the thing Colin puts up. I'm doing it myself. There's my face. So I'll be in Los Angeles tomorrow. I'm going to be at the Glendale Room tomorrow night in Los Angeles, 10 p.m. show. June 16th, Madison, Wisconsin. June 17th, Minneapolis. June 23rd, Detroit, Michigan. June 28th, Bloomington, Indiana. Go Hoosiers. June 29th, Chicago. Edinburgh, Scotland. I'll be at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival August 16th through 27th. And October 21st, I'll be doing a comedy series in my neighborhood of San Pedro. Tickets and all information are at my website, romplacone.com. Shall we go to the chat?
We should. And also, shout out to Signal. If folks are looking for an encrypted messaging app, use Signal.
Signal's the best.
It's the best.
Signal's the best. I use both Signal and WhatsApp just because so many of my family members are on WhatsApp. Oh, okay. But Signal is better. They are both encrypted, end-to-end encrypted. But
Signal is free. You can donate to the organization, though, if you feel like you want to support. Better than giving $8 to Elon Musk. Give it to Signal.
God, yeah. Yeah, and WhatsApp is still encrypted, but WhatsApp is not quite as good with metadata and stuff as Signal is. So Signal is a little better. They're both way better than Twitter or any other social media platform for that matter. So yeah. Tony D, what's up?
We'll start Tony
with
D.
you. And can't wait to see you in Chicago, by the way, Tony. MW, I'm assuming Marianne Williamson isn't perfect, but I love her idea for a Department of Peace.
Oh, yeah, that's a Marianne
Williamson's idea. Yeah, I mean, look, I agree with Marianne Williamson on a lot. I disagree with her on some. So far, if I had to vote tomorrow, she would get my vote. But I don't really think there's going to be much of a primary, unfortunately. So
exactly.
I don't have high hopes for 2024.
I don't either.
I don't at all. Like, I'm just sort of like, text me who wins. It's not going to be pretty. And I've never felt that much, I guess, honestly, like I've never felt that deflated towards a presidential before. Like I've never, like there's all, like in 2008, I was real excited to see Dennis Kucinich up there. You know, like 2012, I guess 2012 was kind of like, meh, whatever. But I still had hope that Barack Obama was going to be the person we thought he was in 2008. I still had hopes that was going to happen.
Yeah.
Boy, was I wrong, but was still hoping for it. 2016, 2020, obviously there was the Bernie excitement. Like this, like I just feel no. Even in 2004, as boring as John Kerry was, it was like, we got to get Bush out. We got to get rid of Bush.
George W. was so terrible. Yeah.
Now it's like, oh my God.
Now it's like
it's just like, there's just nothing. Yeah. And it's either on the Republican side, it's either going to be Trump or worse. Yeah, keep in mind, the other option is worse. It's going to be Trump or worse than Trump. And they're just going to freaking shove Biden down everyone's throats again. And they're bragging about it. They're saying, oh, we're not going to, the DNC is bragging that they're not going to have debates. So, because, the future of our democracy is at stake. So we should not have democracy. Let's start. It's unreal. It's unreal. But anyway, Tony, I hear you there. I am all about a Department of Peace.
Yeah.
And yeah. So Chris Garrett, what's up, my friend? Status Coup is more than just covering the political horse race of the elites. It's all about covering the rat race of everyday people. I don't know if that's a flattering analogy for all of us, Chris. Like,
I mean,
I get what you're saying.
We're all in a rat race.
We are. But doesn't that make us all rats, though? Does it? I mean, maybe it doesn't.
No.
I mean, I get what he's saying. I get what you're saying, Chris. I'm on board.
Cute ones. Minnie Mouse, not.
We're cute rats.
What is that evil rat that was in the kids show? And I can't even think of the name of the kids show now either. Shoot. Never mind. Moving on.
It was the same evil rat that was also a Fox News correspondent.
Yeah.
It was a rich white guy rat who also did Fox News.
Yeah, that guy.
That guy. He was the one. We're not that guy. We're the other ones. But no, I hear you. And then, Chris, you say join up. Thank you so much for that, Chris. And thank you so much for your membership. You help keep Status Quo on the air, and you help us go out and break important stories like Kalamazoo and Flint and East Palestine. Status Coup is pretty much the only outlet now that has stayed in East Palestine, and we're able to do that because of you, our members. So please help us reach that 100 mark for May. Let's see. Humorous, what's up, pal? Hey, guys and ladies, I just tried to re-sign up at $10 a month. I had a lot of trouble. I don't know if that even went through with y'all.
Uh-oh.
Check on it for me. Thanks. We will.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll definitely make sure. We'll make sure that went through for you. Thank you for your continued patience, and of course, Humorous. Thank you so very much for your continued support. Despos Fleisch, what's up?
You just like to say that.
It is fun to say, and I think I'm saying it right. I think I'm doing it right. So that's yeah. Our local news reported Musk's announcement to resign as Twitter CEO. I hope it's true. He did enough damage. Didn't he resign?
He has 100% destroyed that. Twitter's so bad now. I can't even spend time on there. Every time I log, he ruined
everything that made it what it was and made it a useful tool. He ruined.
I agree.
I mean, the way he gutted verification. The whole point, I mean, we've talked about this. We've had this.
I know. Now you have these paid blue checks that are like Nazis trolling you, and you log in, and then I want to read, one of my favorite journalists' posts, and then see some interesting debate below it, and instead all I see is a bunch of dumbass paid for accounts that are getting pushed to the top because that's what Elon did, just Sig Heiling or something. I'm like, what the hell is that?
It's such a and the whole point of Twitter was to be better for news. And for a while, it totally was. He's just destroyed that. The algorithms are all F, so you can't really get trending news story. You used to be able to rely on it for trending news stories. You can't do that anymore.
You can't do that anymore either. Do you notice that he's making mainly the trending news stuff about finance? Have you noticed this?
Oh yeah, finance. Bitcoin type stuff.
And you're this is not trending news, dude. I need to see.
And just random location based stuff. I mean, he's completely ruined what that platform was supposed to be, and it's very sad.
I agree. And the idea that he thought so the wild thing about verification was it was never supposed to be status, right? It was just so people could trust.
So people could quote.
They knew this is the right person. This is definitely who they are. We know it's them, right? It was about that was it. And then he literally thought, okay, well, I'm going to make it a status symbol and sell it, and then everybody's going to want it. It's no, it's
didn't work. Yeah, no, and now he's talking about having a dating app or something. I mean, it's really sad.
Oh,
no,
I'm not. Make it stop.
Unless it was fake, but I don't think it was. But yeah, no, it's very sad because I mean, Twitter was always
he's the worst sort of 4chan reply guy at this point.
His tweets are pretty cringe. They always have been, but now that he's more front and center.
He's up there being more like Alex Jones at this point. It's the whole thing about the Texas shooter was clearly a neo-Nazi. That wasn't up for debate. I know, we talked about this on Right Wing Insanity last week. The Hispanic community isn't monolithic, right? And there's a good chunk of the Hispanic community that consider themselves to be of white European descent. And yes, they're racist as fuck. There is Nazi Hispanics. That's always been the case. Always.
Mm-hmm. Well, isn't the main Proud Boy is Hispanic, right? The leader?
Cuban. Enrique Tarrio,
Cuban.
Yeah.
Okay.
But and also look at how many Nazis were given refuge in South America after, trying to escape, prosecution for their war crimes.
Mm. So a lot of them were in North America too.
Operation Paperclip. Not to digress, but I mean, you get my point. This is not.
No, I get your point.
He's very counterintuitive Twitter on top, but it's certainly not a conspiracy. Is my point.
It's just really sad because I mean, and part of it's you don't know what you got till it's gone because Twitter used to be a valuable tool. It was always toxic and there were always bad elements, but it was still a valuable tool.
It was so valuable.
I'm hoping. I mean, I'm pining for a Blue Sky invite. I don't know if you got one yet, but
no, I just, I'm regretting not getting on the wait list months ago when they.
I'm on the wait list. I haven't heard yet.
I am now because I got on it whenever it was trending a couple weeks ago. I'm okay, I should get on that.
I feel maybe that's gonna be the net, because I feel
Much
like
better.
Mastodon is
Yeah.
just so hard to use that it's never.
I am on Mastodon. If anyone's
I'm on
there, come find me.
Mastodon, and
Oh, are
and
you? See, I didn't even
I
know you were
don't
on.
use it much because it's so hard to use, and
It
like,
is hard to use.
and
Although
everybody.
there is an app that's pretty good that I have that I downloaded onto my phone for Mastodon.
Well, everybody got angry when people started coming on it. Like they were all like, don't come here. We don't want you Twitter people. It's like, all right, well, gee, thanks for making us feel welcome. Like, you don't want more people on your social media app? All right. And I'm sure not everyone at Mastodon feels that way, but like there was sort of a lot of grumblings that they weren't happy about people joining. And it's like, okay.
Oh, really?
That's an
That's weird.
interesting,
That's an interesting
stake
take,
to have.
okay.
But anyway, so I hope Blue Sky is easy to
I think
use.
it will. Yeah, I think that will end up taking over what Twitter used to be, because the minute that's out there, I can't imagine a lot of people staying on Twitter. It's just a hell site at this point that has no value. Like literally, there's no value.
Bummer. It's yeah. I mean, whatever. It is what it is. But yeah. All right.
I'm wondering,
so
does everybody
thank you for
feel that way in the
Tesla
chat too? Is it just us? Do you guys feel that way too? I don't know.
I know it's not just us. I can't speak for the chat, but I guarantee you,
Well, I'm
we're
curious.
not the only two people
No.
who feel that way about Twitter. Tony D, what's up, pal? Welcome back. I signed the petition, Ron. Thank you so much for doing that. And again, you can sign the petition too. Go to noearnitact.org. That's noearnitact.org. And tune in tomorrow because Tina's got a right-wing
insanity report. Insanitide. Wait.
I don't know what that is. I have no idea. That makes no sense. I don't know
That's
what that was.
multiple right-wing insanity reports. Insanitide.
Which you have done.
Which I have done, yeah. So tomorrow we are going to be talking about a bunch of crazy things that have been happening, including a lot of news with Ron DeSantis and where his campaign is headed.
Oh, geez.
So definitely tune in tomorrow.
Do you think he's going to get it?
The nominee, I've gone back and forth on that, to be frank with you. There are moments when I think, well, no, I mean, Trump still has a cult following, and maybe that's what matters more. But DeSantis has definitely got big money behind him. He's very effective as far as not getting in the weeds with, all the kind of temper tantrums that Trump is fond of. But, those things that Trump does are also very appealing to his base, right? That's why they sort of like him, is because he's not the elitist guy that, behaves a certain way. So, I mean, I don't know.
I feel like, the roller coaster's
terrible.
going to start soon. So we'll have more kind of like the kind of dust will start clearing soon. I think right now it's kind of anyone's thing, but
this weekend here in Los Angeles, RuPaul will be having his show at the LA Convention Center, so I'm a little concerned about that, quite frankly.
Why?
Because it's a drag show thing. Have you been missing the entire?
Well, no, of course not. But
why
why
losing their minds? I think they're gonna.
Well,
show
why
up in
LA? You said it's in LA?
Yes, RuPaul will be here in town in LA for this thing at the convention center. So,
right.
Potential there for some nonsense.
Some assholes. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It was just a weird jump from Ron DeSantis. I was like, oh, is Ron DeSantis going to be there too?
I was thinking about right-wing insanity. Sorry.
Oh, I got you. Yeah, because I was just like, well, Ron DeSantis is in Florida. Like, how does?
No, I mean,
I don't know if RuPaul's Drag Race in California will really.
Hang on. Ron DeSantis showing up to protest RuPaul would be like epic television.
That would be kind of funny.
Exactly.
I mean, there'd be a little bit.
It would be beyond dystopian. I'd be like, of course this is happening. Of course it is. 2023. Anyway, so I'll be covering that over the weekend. Hopefully nothing bad happens.
So tune in and tune often, y'all. Again, thank you so much to everyone. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Chris Garrett. Thank you, Humorous. We'll make sure that membership is set for you. Thank you, Des Bush Fleiss. Thank you, Tony D. Again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. And please, 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 again, for all my tour dates and whatnot, check it out at ronplacone.com. And again, folks, please, 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 if you are able, help us reach membership May, the membership May goal here.
We're
trying
halfway
to get
there,
We're halfway there, living on a prayer, as they say. Let me take down. I left Tony's thing up. I'm not as good on the ones and twos as Colin is, but Colin will be back soon. Folks, thanks so much for tuning in. And we'll be back tomorrow with Right Wing Insanity Report. Peace, y'all.